Okay, I'm back. Hopefully you can hear me. If you're hunting for me, yes, we started in a different feed and we lost it. So we're just going to jump in here. I'm going to show you what it is I do to create. There are thin lines of glue on this particular substrate. And if you like, and I'm going to take it off of here so I can bring it a bit closer to the camera, and you can see how this is done. Hopefully you can see the glistening of some of the clear lines I've put down, which is the sizing I showed you earlier when I did the announcement of tonight. So I'll show you what that is. This is a very large bottle. We're going to try this one. And then this particular one I did with a metal, it's called Metal Leaf Sealer. And this is the one that I used. I have several that I do use. And so, you know what, I wanted to test what I had bought probably 35 years ago. And yes, I really do have art supplies from 35 years ago. Okay, so there we go. I'm just showing you how you can use feathers for this. This is actually real gold we're using for this particular piece. I'm just going to show you that you can, brush it on if you like. It just goes on as it does, or you can do it with a full leaf. So with a full leaf, which is generally how I work, it's a tad costly way to work, because yes, it really does cost a lot to use gold. But this is a new technique I wanted to try, and I mentioned to you you're going to need wax paper. So we're going to take a piece of wax paper, just regular kitchen wax paper. Now, in theory, what I should be able to do is pick up the wax paper, pick up a piece of gold with the wax paper and put it on top of this piece of artwork. That's what I'm supposed to be able to do in theory. Maybe I need to have some electricity attached to it. I don't know. But I'm trying to lift it off and transfer it to the wax paper. I'm not sure actually that's particularly successful. However, you can see it's on the wax paper now, so that my hands don't go into these glued areas when I transfer it onto here. Now what will happen is, this is where I use feathers and paintbrushes, and normally I work with, I'm going to move the wax paper. Normally I would put a number of sheets down and then I'd pull the excess off. But for what we're trying to do, I want you to see just how you can reapply it, pull it off. As long as your hands aren't in the actual glue, you'll be able to keep moving it around. And then let me lift that off there, because I may need to use my paintbrush to kind of scrub it into place. I'm using a feather right now, sorry to move it around. And if you are using just small pieces, yes, this really is gold moving around like this. If you're using a small, you can buy like just little bits and pieces of gold, or if you're using some that you have left over, this is how you would do it. You would just sprinkle it on there and then brush it into the gold, which has dried in place, right? So if you purchase some gold sizing, you can take a hairdryer where you are, because the noise will not matter for people who are listening. And you can dab on where you want your gold effects to be. And I usually go underneath. It's not the easiest type of thing. I'm trying to get to a point where I can give you two cameras so you can look down from above. What I've done with this particular piece is I've tried to carry over that theme of angel wings from last week. I'm going to apply some more gold onto this. So one moment, and I will pick up some more gold for us. I'm just going to catch it a little bit in my hands. And yes, I really am wasting gold when I'm doing this, but the waste is because I'm trying to show you how I would do it. In theory, maybe it's because of the nature of this gold and it's actually real. You're supposed to be able to pick it up with a, I've known 5-foot panel of solid gold. At the time, gold was not worth as much as it is now. So I only had bought, it was under $200. Just scrubbing this along with my feather. It's very light. You can see I'm losing a lot of gold. It's falling onto the ground, so you can catch that and retrieve it again. Now my daughter, Abby, she was very kind for me because I had prepared some of these surfaces with the old gold. And see how that works? Is that not somewhat beautiful for you? You can add these gold effects. So what I'm trying to do is capture a sense of angel wings, if you like, moving through this, what I would call like an incense, or a moving through, for me, it would be an offering of worship or communication with heaven. And that may be foreign to some of you, not to be offensive at all. That's just how I think and work and feel. So let me show you that. What I've also done, and what Abby did for me, I'm just going to jump up and grab it because I'm going to switch to silver leaf. And this silver leaf is imitation, but I want to show you, assuming we were successful in drying it. Oops, sorry gang, that is not what you wanted to see. There we go. Sorry about that, I kicked my camera. Yes, here we go. One moment, please. Oh, I guess I haven't come down with it after all. Okay, so let me just show you on this one. This is a solid piece that I've simply painted thoroughly with a gold panel. So I'm going to switch this out for this little piece here on the back. And if you have any questions, or let me just go online on my phone and see if you have anyone's asking any questions. This, I will put back things the way they were so that hopefully I can give you some information about the feed and the program and that, but I just wanted to jump back on and not miss you in the delay of having been cut off and then having to reconnect again. All right, so let me just see if any of you have, okay, thanks Rachel, it's okay now, yes, great. So this is, for me, that's a beautiful piece, and I'll continue to build on that now. Oh, I hear one of my kids coming down right now. I'm going to hang this behind here. That's just that type of demo for you to see. This will be complete sheets. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up complete sheets this time, and I will apply them to this as a complete finished piece. Thank you so much. There we go. Abby has brought down the other things that I was working on because I want to show you. This is slightly different, and maybe if I move it very slowly, you can see where there has been sizing applied, because I wanted us to try not having it everywhere and then putting some paint on. Okay, so let me just get some get a bit of the solid gold again. So here I did this large gold panel, as I mentioned. Now what I did is these squares are 3 by 3/8 inches. And I'm standing on a live platform with young gold, old gold, I call it, because it literally is, some of it is fresher than others, depends on when you buy it. And I was applying it, some of it is test hairs in it, like this particular piece I'm holding right here. So you want to work with it and try and get the squares in place and applied. So I stood on that platform applying these squares in a random fashion. Remember now, I had purchased all that they had in the store. Go. There we are. And this piece, isn't it interesting? Some of the gold leaf, it comes 3 by 3/8 inches, but some of it you can apply, or some of it is just larger, some of it is torn. And you have to very carefully put on. So here I'm doing this 3 foot by 5 foot panel of this online, or on the stage. And I'm talking away, having a conversation with myself going, this is ridiculous. I don't understand this. The theme of this conference is we're all in this together, and here I am. People are trying to reach the world and solve water problems and housing issues and just giving life to people around the globe, and here I am wasting gold on this canvas, feeling that it didn't connect at all to the conference. And then as I started putting it down, I thought to myself, look at this. Some of this is young gold. Some of this is old gold. And yet I just randomly placed it on this large panel as we were enjoying what was a worship music service that night. And it finally dawned on me that I was actually activating and living out an example of what it meant to be community. That I believe the theme was glory, we're all in this together. And I went, you know what? That's what I ended up calling the painting, was glory. And I could see that here I was wrestling about using this gold, but if you are this small square, and I am this small square, and someone else is this small square, my gold might be a little older than yours because I'm 57. Your gold might be a little older than mine, or maybe yours is a little younger. This is one of those pieces that I told you about, has extra edges on it. Like, it's great when you get an extra piece of gold because of the value of this stuff. But when we align, when we all line up together, we reflect an incredible quantity and quality of light. Now, what had happened in that night, because this really was a memorable experience for me, what had happened that night is that someone I had been mentoring had told me, they said, I'm going to come to watch you painting. I said, or watch you creating. I said, that's cool, that'd be awesome. And I kept thinking, I kept thinking to myself, well, where is she? Why haven't I seen her? And she said to me, this was in an auditorium that I think they could seat about 2,500 people in this auditorium. And I thought, she didn't come. Well, that's too bad. I expected her to come. And she said, I was there, Patty. I couldn't move in my seat. When you move the panel, just like I'm doing now, but when you move this big panel on the platform, the stage lights hit it, and it reflected so brightly, it impacted me. And I just tried to get closer to you a couple of times, but I actually ended up just going back into my seat and sitting down where I was because I couldn't get closer. Now, that might sound a little interesting to you. It was interesting to me because it dawned on me. What I was talking about was that, again, individually, we have a portion of light to give. We have a portion of strength and capacity and community. But when every one of us lines up together, really, in many ways, like we're being asked to do in this pandemic, let's line up. Let's give our lives in constructive and positive ways, even in Ontario here where I'm sitting. Again, choosing honor with one another. Choosing, not because you may believe in mask wearing or closing schools or closing businesses. All I know is I'm really glad I'm not the one who has to make those decisions. on behalf of a nation or a province or a state or a country. I'm the one who is at home, safe, protected, and trying to honor those who are making those decisions. And it's not even about whether they're right or wrong. It's about trying to be honorable and reflect the goodness, for me, the goodness of God in the land of the living, being kind and giving my life away and not being asked to do anything really other than be kind and respect people. Do my best to continue to pivot and generate an income and care for my family without risking other people's lives in the process. So yeah, that's so as you can see, this is how you can, I mean, it's a bit of a fragile process. I have done events where all we've done is use gold on the side of the painting, as if it was like the pages of a sacred book that we sealed, and everyone in the room with me from all over the world added their piece of gold. Okay, so now I will pick up these small pieces, which are on the floor here, but there is a rough feel for what this looks like. Okay, now I'm going to put a piece of wax paper underneath it and try and capture some of this gold as I press it into, as I smooth it out with my paintbrush, right? So there's gold size underneath. Remember, there's extra gold in some of these pieces. You could paint underneath this with this. I did it on a kind of just a background of almost like a putty color. Right? You can do it on a bright color. Some people work on reds. They like to have the red shine through the background. But whatever you do, you just smooth it out. You can save these little bits. I normally would smooth those little bits into another part on the painting, but because I'm trying to work vertically here for you to see, I want you to be able to see this process, right? Now look at the beauty of that, right? Isn't that gorgeous? I have to kind of change the angle so you can see all these little pieces are still between. There's still some empty spots, but and we can try and fill those in with the leftover bits of gold. But yeah, this little piece of 8 by 10 inch tool. Now you can just leave that as I have. There's feedback about everything I'm saying, if you're in a place where you can, type in something. Oh, and those of you, normally I have this written in the feed and I'll add it later, but this is intended to be a free touch point each week. If you wish to donate, you can. There's a donate button. I believe it's under pattykingsley.com, create good, and you can make a donation and receive a tax receipt. It helps me keep things going here for sure. But this, right now, as we're in this season together, I wanted to make sure people had access to beauty and creativity, that just sitting and joining together, maybe talking with each other back and forth online. I know none of you are really doing that yet, but maybe you will. Is that not beautiful? Now you can do this on a piece of furniture, and I'm going to have to work out that kink of the wax paper not working, because it has worked, and it didn't work with me tonight. So I'll check out that further. But we're going to take, I have to watch the time here, it's already 6:30, because I wanted to show you some other things that you can do with gold leaf, as well as an artist, right? So we started out, there's a picture behind me here, and we started with that one, I'll move that, adding gold leaf as an accent to an already finished picture. Now we've created, if you like, a wall of gold here, and that can be burnished a bit more. But you can see how it picks up the light, and what a beautiful picture of community. Little squares, just little squares put together, right? Is that not spectacular? Isn't that beautiful? I love it personally. I just love, there's nothing quite like real gold. And again, people, you know, you can use fake stuff, no problem. It's a picture of stuff, but this is actually real. And for me personally, when I am creating for you, I try to use real images pictures I've taken. Sometimes, you know, I have a piece underway that I drove to New York to take the picture myself, because whenever possible, I like to use images that I've taken myself, or I'll even ask permission of people. But there you go, beautiful gold leaf reflecting. And I have it all over my apron. I'm going to just save that while you look at this for a moment. And then I'm going to show you another process, if you like, or another way you can use gold leaf. So let me just grab this off my apron, put it back in my little box. And yes, when I'm painting and creating live, I have gold everywhere. It floats up in the air. I use a lot of feathers just to maneuver it, and sometimes with stage lighting or platform wind and stuff, it ends up flying all over. And there is loss. However, the beauty is amazing. So there we go. Now, what I wanted to show you, I'm not sure that this one will be dry to use tonight, but I wanted to show you the different textures in this piece. Because what I see here, I've used a heavier gel. Now, there's no gold sizing on here yet, but I wanted to show you that, you can use textures and put the gold sizing over top of it and create an image that way. Or you can create a base like this and create on top of it, or you can use it as an accent for images that are already created, to try to get that feel or that sense of what it is you're trying to communicate by using gold. Again, I believe I'm working with probably 22 karat gold here. So you have gold sizing. This piece we covered entirely with gold. This one, again, I have put on lines and smudged the gold in patterns, or in shapes where I want it. But I'm not sure we'll get to that one, because I want to show you another type of piece that you can do. So this one is dry enough now, I believe, that I'm going to use some paint on here. I'm just going to grab what is a red oxide paint, and probably I'll do some blue, and just show you where, how we can, well, maybe I'll just show you rather than talk about it. And once again, I have my handy dandy pliers, because even if you are young, it is wisdom to preserve your hands for the important work of painting. I'm putting a bit of red oxide onto my palette. And then I'm going to splash some of it onto this particular canvas with a lot of water. Now this has gold sizing on it. So what I'm going to do, turn it up. Yes, I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to do the bottom half of it so you can see that. I'm going to move some of these. This is a little piece we were working on last week. I'm going to move that out of the way. Oops, sorry. So that I don't get paint splattered all over it, and I'll move this gold panel out of the way. I can work on finishing that later. And this one was our first week together, and it's already sold, so I have to finish that up. We'll move it out of the way. Yes, I like having a little wall behind me so you can see kind of what we're building week after week. I'm thinking we're going to work on, I don't know if you can, let me show you Cow up here. There's Cow up there on the wall. I'm thinking that we'll work on charcoal. Or we're going to work on climbing higher, creating a painting that we can, you know, it's really where I go when I need to have joy in my day. I don't really hang out around here. In reality, sometimes I just fly a bit in my paintings. And while that might sound a tad weird to you, again, hey, what can I say? I'm trying to share how I create. Just putting red oxide here in, you know, there's some resistance on the panel itself possibly because of the gold sizing. But I want to be able to, hopefully some of that glue will show through this painting area. I'm going to put a little bit of, I'm going to add a very deep blue now. Well, oops, sorry gang. Oh man, every week I'm trying new things, and look at that, I got all, the camera got all disheveled. There you go. You're staring in back for a moment. I'm picking up a very dark blue. And while I often pre-plan what we're going to do together, I really enjoy changing direction on a live basis, just to keep creating in ways that are enjoyable for me and hopefully enjoyable for you too. So, anthraquinone blue, very dark blue. It's actually, sometimes it's hard to get because of the mineral used to create it. However, I do have some. I was at Curry's Art Supplies today just trying to stock up on what I might need for the next month or so. Oh, and those of you who have been online, you can see, oh, actually it's not posted yet. I wanted to show you, I'll show you before we finish. I wanted to show you my daughter, Elizabeth. She has created a beautiful hair. You know, I do a line of, yes, let's put a little more water in here. I do a line of tea towels from India, quality tea towels. Yes, I'm just going to bang this with a rag, take off some of that moisture. And she has created one called Hair. It's beautiful. Okay, so this is an abstract piece, if you like. I'm going to dry off that painted area now, and I'm going to try to apply the gold leaf while we still have these abstracted colors in place, because then we can start to paint. We can start to paint and use the gold leaf in a real painting, if you like, as we go. So I'm just dabbing this, picking up. What happens is when you do this, I learned this from Doug Thompson. Now, not on the gold leaf part, but in the sense of using these colors and paints here. I'm just going to put a little bit more of that back in here. We'll find out whether or not the gold leaf will work in sections here where I've been able to keep it. I haven't kept it dry, but I'm blotching it, right? And whether or not that will be picked up by the gold. That's our experiment tonight. So again, I'm going to get a sheet of gold, real gold, and see whether or not it's going to adhere with my feather. Whether or not I can get it to, if it's going to adhere through the paint wash that I've put down. And I believe it is going to work. So then, because I had this in a particular, you know, I have a sense of what I wanted to have covered with gold, then I can incorporate that directly into my painting, if you like, and finish off this evening showing you that kind of effect that you can get by painting while you're using the gold leaf. Now again, there's always drying times. I try to show you something that will inspire you to create on your own, knowing that, you know, the likelihood of being able to keep up with me sometimes when I'm whizzing through these things is possibly not something you can do. But you can go back and look at this throughout the week, and you can pick up tips and tricks. What I'm trying to do is actually get a sense of water here. So that's what I've tried to use. I've put the sizing down on the page to try to get an effect of water. Look at all this gold here. I want it to have an effect of a wave crashing and then being able to paint around that and have the gold tips of the water or come out at the top of the water. And I think what I'm going to do is put actually some silver on here as well. Now this is an aluminum, if you like, almost, and not, I'm going to try not to mix my gold with my aluminum on the floor below here. So I'm just going to move this slightly if I can. Right, and then, so I don't mix the gold and the silver together in my piles on the ground, because then it'll be harder for me to separate the real gold from the aluminum. There you go. You can see, isn't that not cool? All right, can you see that effect? Silver and gold. Let me get a little bit more, because then we can now paint the wave, and that is another whole thing. So not only have we talked about angels tonight, we've talked about waves, we've talked about community, and all being in this season, if you like, together. Now, this is not, if you like, I mean, people who preserve every drop of gold and silver would not be doing this way, same way I'm doing it tonight, because this is it's a tad wasteful. But I'm trying to show you what can be done so that you can modify these things in your studio practice. There we go. I've just kind of wiped it across the bottom, if you like, and you can, it has picked up the metal there. So now, in these last remaining moments, oh wow, do let me know where you're from, please, so I can celebrate with you joining us tonight. I'm going to just show you kind of thing we might be able to do to create a very beautiful, it's exciting to me because I get to go off afterwards, and well, tonight I have a meeting when I stop talking here, but often I can come back and then create a piece of beautiful artwork. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take and tuck some dark colors behind. What I'm just using is a very deep blue and that rust, which is a red oxide, behind, bringing in some, mixing some white with it in this process as well. I do really want to get a sense of the power of waves. So now I'm painting right over top of this gold and silver together. I'm going to spritz it with some water and see what happens when we do that, when we have water and we have the paint mixing together with the gold leaf as we're creating. Again, a spritzer bottle is one of your best friends. And then what happens is I will go back in again. You can see, let me move the camera a little bit closer here, because hopefully you can see how the blue sits above the gold and starts to give it some antiquing and coloring. Let me straighten the camera again. Now that I've done that, I kind of messed everything up, didn't I? There we go. I'm just going to move this closer so you can see it a little bit better, I think. There is a glare from the lighting. There you go. Just don't want to obliterate the silver or gold, but I do want the silver and gold to be incorporated as if it was part of the painting, as if it was just another color on my palette, right? So I'm staining behind where the gold is sitting, where I believe I can then reinforce the power and the presence of the waves when I come back to painting on this another day. And yes, you know what, we have some time, right? We have some time to be alone right now and to be thinking about life in general. We have time to be trying new techniques, exploring life together, splashing and crashing of the waves. This is going to be a blast. Is this not going to be fun? Oh, wow, I'm having some fun here tonight. I hope you've had some fun learning a little bit about how I use gold leaf. This is not furniture making class, right? This is not Furniture 101, how you apply gold leaf with some, as the ancient art and technique. It isn't that. This is how do we use this in 3 different ways we've looked at this evening. How do we use this to create depth and beauty and a little bit different approach to what you may have done at other times. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to PM me if you have tried these techniques at home. Yes, this is not for the faint of heart. This is not about perfection again, right? This is about beauty and joy and fun. I did buy a couple of new paintbrushes today. Well, actually, they're not brushes, they're rubber from Curry's. You may have a Desserts or Paint Spot out in Edmonton. I've been to different art stores all across Canada. In the US, you can get some of these things at Hobby Lobby. One of the sizings that I used was from Hobby Lobby. Right, so we're just, This is going to be a mighty splashing wave. So I'm about to spritz it one more time. Just a tiny bit here. I'm going to go back in with my rag now. Drips are your friend, and you're not likely always going to be able to do paintings without the odd hair in them. It's part of the fun of creating. You try not to do this, but you often lose paintbrush hairs in the process, and I am more focused on the creativity than I am on whether or not I have a hair in the mix. All right, that's going to set up just for a minute. Let's see, yeah, you're pretty close to this. All right, there we go. It's almost hard to show the light or to demonstrate this because the light keeps bouncing off of it. Right, but I'll let that set up a little bit. I'm going to mix some Naples yellow and white. Remember, and white is gesso for me. So I'm going to do the white and gesso together. Or sorry, the gesso, which is my white, and Naples yellow. There's some rich tones here, and now I'm going to go in and take a smaller paintbrush, if you like. I can find one. I'm not sure I have one handy. Let me grab one. Sometimes I use a feather for this again, but because it's so tight, I think I'm going to actually get a small paintbrush. This one might work. I'm interested to see what will happen just using Naples yellow, there we go, and gesso together. I don't have a complex palette, but I love Naples yellow. And I start working with the shapes that emerge from having done the sponging, as well as having done the leaf work. It's almost as if, or sorry, not sponging, but using the rag on the wet canvas. Right? I start seeing where I want to have a lighter backdrop behind. Are we having fun yet? I'm going to try to get a sense of the sky there. Whoops. And yes, I do have gold all over the floor. Isn't it amusing? Those of you who've joined us, you can possibly see the panel behind, and I'll try to show you one more time all of the things that we've created tonight. In this next 10 minutes, I'm just trying to get a sense of that, you know, the buttercream sky. I'm trying to make sure I get the warmth of red oxide with gesso, red oxide, gesso, and Naples yellow. I will wet this again. Probably turn it upside down and let it sit and dry. Then I'll come back and look for these random and beautiful little shapes that I can highlight. And find the waves that are hidden here. And the cresting and the tip of the wave. And the lines of water and deep sea that, there I'm looking, aren't I? Preserving again the silver and the gold in tiny measure, but not worrying if there's a glaze over top of that. Like if there's a glazing that goes over top of the gold leaf or the silver leaf. The splashing of the wave as it's coming towards you off the canvas. I just feel the vibrancy of these splashing, crashing wave. And, you know, there's a lot of deep color in water. It is not a singular color. And rather than sometimes paint literal water, for me, I like to watch, when I paint water and when I paint fire or wind, I try to watch the shapes that are created by the water, the fire, or the wind, rather than trying to paint literally what I see. I really don't want to just do a literal version of water, because what happens is it starts looking very pasted, as if you pasted it on top of the canvas. This might turn into a mountain range instead of a splashing water wave. Right? Just using a rag to soften those edges and allow the water to work the canvas itself. I'm going to flip that around and see what's happening if I turn it. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? You can see the gold leaf and the silver leaf. I think I like the orientation I had on it. Okay. When we look at water, there'll be crashing rocks. I'll probably I may have a rock in here, I'm not sure yet. We'll let it evolve. Thank you, Penny. You don't need to rush this, but you want to be able to just allow. See, I really like what's happening in here. You can see, I'm trying to point at it with my feather instead of with my finger because it's small. Right? But you can see through here that you want to go back in and find the light that's hidden in this section, right? It will start to emerge for you if you allow the water and the rag and the push and the pull of the canvas to create shapes for you where you start to work. If you like, you start to interact with the canvas. So for tonight, just let's go back over. This is, if you like, an abstracted piece that will, in all likelihood, be a crashing wave. A crashing wave, which the water's just going to explode through the top of it here. You can see the little bits of the tip of the wave, and it'll swell up and crash through here. That's what I'm seeing right now. In addition to that, apart from that, we started off using gold sizing and just adding it to, with lines, if you like, lines with you can see through here, I used a rubber squeegee of sorts to create lines and shapes. And then I used the tip of an application bottle. I can go in here and I can clean off some more of this with my finer tools if I want to show what is down below. I can play with it with my feather and it will do similar things. Then I smooth it out and I'm finished. And in addition to that, so we've used it on top of a canvas, and then we also did a solid 8x10, simply creating panels of gold. Or if you like, a panel of gold. Now you can go back in and paint on top of this if you want to. Just move our wave out of the way. You can go back in and paint on top of that if you want to, or you can just let it sit as a beautiful example of what happens when you take your strength, add it to my strength, add it to the neighbor's strength beside you, and your coworker down the road, or your friend across the globe who's been communicating with you and caring for you during this season we're in. And we can see a beautiful glory, if you like, of what happens, or a beautiful light that is emitted from the collective whole, which we don't get just from an individual piece. I mean, sure, a 3x3/8 piece of gold is always going to reflect light. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it just incredibly beautiful when we can reflect that together? Okay, so I'm just going to pull this camera back and I'll have a little hello to you. This is always very awkward to do. There I am. So it's been great talking with you today. I look forward to seeing you into next week and beyond. 6 o'clock Wednesday evenings we'll create together. If you want to follow this, I'm trying to switch things over to YouTube so that you can hopefully get a better quality video to watch over time. And to do that, just watch my personal page and my fan pages if you like for a link. But I will send it out in emails as well if you subscribe at pattykingsley.com. pattykingsley.com. This is free, barrier-free creating and inspiration, just to maybe give you some life hacks and some different tools and tricks that I use in my art practice. I'm not sure it's easy to follow along in an hour and switch canvases and all the things I'm trying to show you. But hopefully I've given you a few tips that when you walk away from here, you can create at home and create some beauty for yourself and something that inspires you to get through the upcoming days and weeks and months ahead as you start doing your own practice. Yes, so there we go. Next week, I'm thinking we'll probably climb a mountain together, just if you like, a castle in the sky. Sometimes I need a lift in my day, and I just like to create almost like crystal cities or castles in mountains. And how do I do that? How do you just look at a blank canvas and start creating pathways, following shapes? It's almost like this wave idea, but the shapes might be a bit different, right? So we'll try and go there together. I didn't do any more to finish the this wall of angels that I started last week, but I'm going to. And my sister's nursing home, I should let you know, is now COVID-free again, and visits have resumed. So once again, her nursing home is kept everyone safe inside, and which is why I'm doing a wall of angels as a symbol of frontline workers and their care, and the wall of protection that people are trying to give all of us during this season of life. So blessings and peace to you and to your family. I look forward to visiting with you next week, even though, hey, I could say, well, everyone, let's smile, and hopefully you can smile back with me, even though there's no way I can see you. But let's just keep creating together, hanging out together, and being community, because together we will weather this storm and we will enjoy ourselves. Some of us like to be on the top deck of the ship. Some of us like to run for cover wherever you find yourself. Just know you're not alone. You may be on your own, but you're not alone. All right? Take care, everyone. And we will see you again next week. Bye for now.